Hey Bobby, so here's your setup. Give you a quick rundown here. Max ECU goes in the tail, obviously, with the connectors facing the tail light. This guy should reach pretty much anywhere you want to go on the bike, but I assume the O2 sensor will be way up front. There's your LSU 4.2 wideband. You got your Bosch igniter. Put that in the tail somewhere. You're going to want to put a heat sink on the bottom of this with paste in order to dissipate heat. Got some leftover I/O here, so we've got injectors 5 through 8, 12 volt outputs. There's 5 of those, 12 through 16, and then you got CAN here if you want to do a dash or something in the future. Got your 8 EGT inputs. Okay, this is the relay that gets 12 volt ignition power and then gets you basically direct to the battery. So my box will go in just like this. All the connectors here, everything here is upside down. So when this goes on the bike, basically if you're at the front of the bike looking towards the back, Boost by Smith will look correct here, but you'll see these guys have the notches on the top. These are all upside down on the other side. Definitely don't want to mix those around. This is the auxiliary harness that all the extra stuff comes in, so this will just plug into your factory wiring. Then you can see all the stuff that I added here. So I'll show you a few things. Intake air temp. So this is going to plug into the stock sensor connector, and then you'll run this to wherever you want to measure your intake air temp with the Rife High IAT there. So as we go here, basically once you get underneath the tank, this will kind of split off. You'll have a couple things go to the left, and then a bunch of other stuff go to the right. So one of the things going to the left will be your air switch. So for your air shifter solenoid, that guy will come down and wrap around over by your air ram, giving you the mating connector for this. Then there's also a larger harness that's going to go, snake around through the frame and then over by your coolant bottle and stuff. So you've got an inline adapter here to get speed. So your speedo sensor there on the outside of the left ram air or left frame, sorry. This guy is going to plug into the stock fan switch connector, so you won't be using what's in the radiator anymore. You'll be using the ECU to control this 12 volt output, which will trigger the relay. This is going to go inline to your headlight harness, so when your high beams are on, either when you're pulling the flash to pass button, this will activate your rolling anti-lag. If you're above 30 miles an hour, if you're below 30 miles an hour, it's going to move your boost table from 1 to 10, which is kind of how I have it set up at the moment. Your shift light wiring is here, or orange being 12 volt, and then green being the switched ground. Get your ride height sensor. So here's your banner 20-inch laser sensor here. That should be plenty long enough to get down on the mounted close to the ground. You'll want to re-zero that once you have it mounted in its normal spot. Got one of the cool 360-degree analog gear position sensors here. This is going to plug into the stock barometric pressure sensor. So that's over mounted on that little bracket on the left frame rail on the inside next to the little flapper valve solenoid and stuff. The stock gear position sensor connector now is going to have one of your extra analog inputs that's not being used on it. Okay, you got a remote oil pressure mount kit. So that'll go down, into the cases, and then you'll be able to thread your oil pressure sensor into that. So you've got fuel pressure, oil pressure, wastegate dome pressure, and that one you want to put directly in the wastegate. We've got a Realtek boost control valve there. That's labeled boost control. Let's see, what else do we have? We've got your ethanol sensor. This should reach anywhere underneath the tank that you want to go. And then you've got your shifter input. So this will go to the horn ground, which is a black wire at that big 2-pin plastic connector. Okay, then you've got your replacement injector harness for the ID 2000s that you're going to run. So throttle positions labeled, injector 1 through 4 is all labeled. That will just, take the old one out, put this one there in its place. On that relay, I do have a 15 amp fuse installed in there, so these will just go to negative and then positive terminals on the battery. Also worth mentioning this auxiliary harness, because I ran out of pins with all the stuff you have going on. This is going to plug into the little 4-pin diagnostic connector that you would normally jumper in order to see what your FI codes are. This will plug in there, and I think your ethanol sensor gets ground and its signal from this connector. It's getting 12 volt from here, and then it goes off into that harness.